What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest, and today we're going to be talking about the latest for the Detroit Lions. I'm sorry, I didn't know what to say. We're going to be taking a look at what Dan Orlovsky said about how the Lions should approach this year's draft. Also, what Taylor Decker said about the Detroit Lions and the draft, and plus some trade back scenarios and which one the Lions should accept if they came their way. So let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome, everybody, to our video. Glad you guys are here. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully everybody is having a good day. I'm about to say a Gucci day, but that's not a thing anymore, is it? Gucci? How y'all stop? Gucci gang. Yeah, I mean, we're just going to dive right into this. We know this draft is not tomorrow, but the day after, which is just, I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling at this point how close the draft actually is. You guys know I'm hyped for the draft. Okay. We did our receiver big board, so if you guys want to check that out, I'll probably work on a slight big board for tomorrow, which I can put out where it's kind of like all the positions into one. We just ran out of time to do all the other spots. I underestimated how long it was going to take. So we'll probably do that tomorrow, and then we'll do our predictive mock draft. And I really don't know what else. Maybe we'll go live tomorrow just because, you know, why not? I'm not sure. Let me know what you guys want to see. But let's get right into this, okay? Let's start off with Taylor Decker first. Just a couple of things that we heard from Taylor Decker. Taylor Decker said that he did lobby for offensive line coach Hank Fraley to stay. And, of course, Hank Fraley was one of the few assistant coaches who did stay with this staff. Also, the tight end coach stayed as well. So he said that was cool because, you know, it was kind of like, hey, I pushed for this guy. I really wanted him to stay. And here he is. Hank Fraley stayed with the Detroit Lions. And it seems like he's done a pretty good job. I mean, for the most part. I mean, the Lions have definitely invested in the offensive line, but it's you know, it's getting there. We've seen guys improve. Decker is coming off his best season, so something was going right there. Frank Ragnow's been much better at center. I mean, you know, Jonah Jackson was able to play a pretty nice role, but hey, he's going to really prove himself this offseason, I think, to see where Big V can go. See the development of a guy like Big V if we draft somebody. But not only that, also Logan Stenberg, if he can get onto the field, okay? There is definitely going to be a big year, I think, for Hank Fraley, but that is pretty cool. Taylor Decker also said that he would be fine with the Lions drafting an offensive lineman, understanding the importance, really, of that position. So Taylor Decker's like, hey, if they want to add more offensive line talent, go for it. Like, I understand how important it is to have offensive linemen. Now, with the Detroit Lions, Dan Orlovsky kind of went into this a little bit later, so we'll get to that in a second. Taylor Decker saying that he loves Dan Campbell. He loves Dan Campbell. He speaks to him about once a week. So that's pretty good. Hey, you know, got connection. I mean, me and DC, you know, we talk about like once every couple hours. So, I mean, it's nothing, something light. You know? I'll take 3 cheese pizzas with no lettuce.
Oh, if you keep calling this number, I'm going to call the police.
Nah, it's me, Dan. I was, you know, just cracking it. Hello? I don't think he might not have meant to hang up. Let me just.
All right, that's it. Who is this?
The fridge running. Damn, what's going on, man? No, don't hang up. I just thought we were chilling. Oh, you did. What do you mean it's blocked? Now let's talk about what Dan Orlovsky had to say about the last draft. And now he has stuck to this point for a while. Orlovsky has not really, you know, wavered on this. I feel like this has been his opinion for the Detroit Lions for a while here. And basically, he said, don't take another skill position. All right, don't take another flashy player. He says, don't make the mistake, basically, that past regimes have made. Don't get caught up in the shiny. So he wants the Detroit Lions to build from the line of scrimmage, which would mean the offensive line. Orlovsky was making this sound as if the Detroit Lions have not addressed, you know, the offensive line in the past, which is not completely true. Go get, you know, the guys on the line of scrimmage. You know, do that. Because you can't get it to the receiver if you can't protect the quarterback. That was kind of the point of Dan Orlovsky. He makes a good point. He really does make a good point here. But when you look at the Lions draft, I mean, yes, in all fairness to Detroit Lions, the last regime specifically did definitely address the offensive line. Defensive line was kind of before our past regime. The past, you know, you go back near to 2010, you're seeing the Ndamukong Suh, you're seeing the Nick Fairleys, you're seeing the Ziggy Ansahs. I mean, they went defensive line. And then when the Bob Quinn regime was here, they went offensive line. And even a little bit before that, they got the Laken Tomlinson. But, you know, with Bob Quinn, their first draft pick was Taylor Decker. They also brought in Frank Ragnow. You know, with the offensive lineman that they signed Rick Wagner. They brought in T.J. Lang. We know that they also drafted Jonah Jackson, the Logan Stenberg, Graham Glasgow. Like, they definitely, I mean, Bob Quinn specifically, because, you know, he was kind of part of 2 regimes. Since Bob Quinn came in 2016, he definitely addressed the offensive line. And he said he was going to make this offensive line, like he was going to fix the offensive line. And he got very close to completing it. I mean, he really did. And honestly, some could argue it is completed. Now, I think it's also important to mention the fact that offensive linemen, there's always 5 on the field at a time. I don't know if you can go out there without 5 offensive linemen. So, as much as you've addressed it, you'll still need 5. Receiver, you could have 2, but you got to have 5 offensive linemen. Because the offensive line has been built. We spent a lot of money there. Our free agent signings maybe haven't worked out the best with a guy like Rick Wagner. Big V, we'll see how that turns out. But it didn't look great in the first year. So, maybe the free agency offensive line we bringing in have been hitting as well. But we've definitely addressed that position. Just to be fair to the Detroit Lions, Bob Quinn has addressed that position recently, and it's shown as the Lions offensive line has climbed, and in terms of PFF, it's ranked above average at number 13 last season. So, yeah, I mean, you could tell they've addressed the offensive line, but some believe that you could finish off the offensive line with that right side, maybe specifically an offensive tackle to take over that right tackle position. Now, as we mentioned before, it's not easy for an offensive lineman to step in and produce day one, and there's a good chance that no matter where you draft the offensive lineman, he may not be better than Terrell Crosby right away, but that's okay, because even if he's not, next season Terrell Crosby's contract expires, and Big V has an out, and if the Lions want to, go forward with that out, which is very possible, because for me, I look at it as Big V's moving to right guard. If Big V doesn't play extremely well and take a huge step forward at guard, I don't see the Lions keeping him around after the season. They could save basically a little over $4 million. Now, the dead cap would be $4.2 million as well, but it's an opportunity for the Detroit Lions to get out of the contract and save a little bit of money if they wanted to do that instead of taking on the cap hit. Definitely see that happening if he doesn't play much better at guard, because I feel like they'd probably look elsewhere for guard, knowing they have Logan Stenberg on the roster, and they could probably just draft somebody at that point, or Terrell Crosby could move there if they re-sign him. But I think Big V needs to have a Big V needs to have a big season in 2021. But again, with Terrell Crosby's contract coming up, it makes sense for the idea of going offensive tackle, protecting Jared Goff, solidifying the offensive line to give yourself a better running game, which is where Jared Goff thrives when he has a running game, and allowing your weapons to get open, allowing that kind of thing to happen, and really just finishing off the offensive line, which seems to be relatively close. Do you agree, yes or no, with his idea of the offensive line? I definitely get it. There's no question I get it. When you consider the first round pick, I mean, even if you trade back, I understand taking a tackle. Most people are on the Penei Sewell hype train there if he falls to 7. Some people are on the Sean Slater hype train. Some people like the trade back option. I mean, for me, I understand offensive line. They did it. I wouldn't be mad at all, because I get it. I really do get it, trying to solidify that offensive line side. But on Good Morning Football, they threw out a couple of potential trade back scenarios for the Detroit Lions, and I thought we'd roll through them in today's video. Now, I did want to work on a mock draft, like a first round mock draft. All the teams, just do a first round mock draft, and just kind of a predictive first round mock draft to put that up by Thursday. So that will probably be coming your way at some point as well. But the idea here in Good Morning Football is that one of these trains are likely trading up for a quarterback. I mean, I don't know, but they're offers that they made, and they said, okay, hey, if you were the Lions, would you accept any of these offers? So we're going to read through those offers and discuss whether or not we would accept those offers. I did go look at Brad Holmes and his past of drafting, when he was part of the Rams back in 2013 through really last season. And there's really not a lot. I don't know if it's easy to say there's a pattern of how they drafted, but they have brought in some top offensive linemen, and same thing with receiver as well. The last time they did, though, bring a first round receiver, obviously they haven't had a lot of first round picks, was Tavon Austin back in 2013. 2014, they brought in Greg Robinson, the tackle. 2015, they brought in Todd Gurley, the running back. 16 was Jared Goff. 17 was Everett. That wasn't a first round pick. They only had a second round pick. 18 was a tackle with their first pick, but that was not a first round pick because they didn't have one. Brought in Taylor Rapp, the safety first. 20 with their first pick, they went with a running back, and they went with a receiver. Because of their lack of first round picks, it makes it difficult to really say, okay, this is what Brad Holmes likes to do, or this is what the Rams like to do. And plus, it's based on what your team needs. If your team doesn't need it, you don't draft it, right? This does show that Brad Holmes does value receivers in the draft, but there's only been one since 2013 because they haven't had a lot of first round picks, so it makes sense. But they have done that. However, if you look at, again, the weapons from last season with the LA Rams, with Jared Goff, all of their top receivers, none of them were first-round picks. Second, third, and fourth-round picks there from their top receivers. So, and of course, their tight ends, which weren't a first-round pick, and a lot of the running backs. So the Detroit Lions, I think they're definitely going to address the receiver position, but I don't know if it's guaranteed they do it at 7. Now, if they trade back, everything obviously comes into play, but it's very difficult when they don't have a lot of first-round picks to say, okay, here's where they usually go. Plus, every team's different. Here's some of the offers that have been thrown out there. Let's talk about the first one, and probably the one I like the most. This is with the New England Patriots. Now, I was reading today that NFL executives said Patriots were legitimately interested in trading up, which the rumors are they are interested in trading up for Fields. So assuming Fields fell to 7 and he was there, if the Detroit Lions wanted to, the NFL people agreed that they could get a deal, which would be the Detroit Lions receiving the 15th pick, the 46th pick, which is their second round pick, and a 2022 first round pick, and that the Patriots would accept that offer. That's what I've read. Not saying it would happen, may not work on their simulator, but that's what I've read, is that they said, is that people around the NFL have all agreed that if that offer was put out and the Patriots did want to move up for Fields, they would accept it. But I thought I would just throw that out there. However, this is Good Morning Football's idea of a trade back here. The Detroit Lions would obviously give up the 7th pick in the draft, and they move back to number 15 with the New England Patriots. Patriots would go up and take a quarterback, probably Justin Fields, but that could be a smokescreen. Maybe they don't want Fields. Maybe they want Lance, something like that. And the Detroit Lions would get in return pick number 15, pick number 46, so the first and second round pick, a 122nd pick in this year's draft, a 4th round pick, and next year's 2nd round pick. Now that's a lot of draft capital. So you're getting 2 more picks this season, which puts you at 8, and you're getting a 2nd round for next year, which means that next season you would have 2 firsts and 2 seconds. You're also getting another 2nd this year to have 2 seconds this season, and another 4th this year. That is a lot of draft capital, and it's definitely something that if I was offered, if I was the Detroit Lions, I would heavily consider doing it, especially if you're okay with other options. If you're dead set on one guy, you're like, I have to get Sewell because he's here, I have to get this dude because he's here, then take that guy. But me, the way I view the draft board, I would be willing to accept that kind of offer. Now, who's going to be available there? Well, I did it on the mock draft simulator, and here's who was available. Now, this is subject to change, but here's who was available a majority of the time. Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Micah Parsons, Tevin Jenkins, Samuel Cosmi, Elijah Vera Tucker, Greg Newsome, Najee Harris, Kwity Paye, Azeez Ojulari, just some of the big names that would be available for the Detroit Lions. Now, not all of those may be. Not all of those may fall because you have teams, of course, between you and the Patriots. You have those 8 teams.
It's important to mention that the likelihood of Waddle, Smith, and Parsons all being available may be relatively slim, but I guess that's just how it worked out when I did simulator. It hasn't really worked out like that since. But the fact is, there's going to be some top talent available at all these different positions. Receiver, linebacker, tackle, even if you go back to a spot like 15, if you still like those guys. And I do.
You have the Panthers. Now, the Panthers, they could look at a quarterback if one slips through, but a lot of people think it's going to be Patrick Surtain. Some people think they go linebacker. Denver could take a quarterback at number 9. Not sure who they like there if they're not trading up, so maybe not. 10, you have Dallas. They could easily go, defensive side of the ball. They could grab another weapon, but probably defensive side of the ball. Those are some of the top players that I found were usually available. Now, out of those players, who would I target? Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith. If you can move back to number 15, and you are going to take a receiver at 7 anyways, and you could trade back to 15 and get Devontae Smith and or Jalen Waddle, that is a great scenario. That's a beautiful scenario. How is that not a great scenario? Usually what happens is if you trade back further than that, most of the time those receivers go to New England or they go to Arizona at 16. So they're off the board once you move past that. But if you're at 15, you're in front of a lot of those teams that could be taking receivers or Micah Parsons. I'm a big Micah Parsons guy, so personally, I would be perfectly fine with going back to 15. Again, assuming the off-the-field stuff checks the box and you're cool with that. Getting Micah Parsons at 15, I think the value would be through the roof with that pick, and they're getting the best linebacker in the draft while also landing all these picks. And my 4th guy I would target out of that would be definitely Tevin Jenkins. Tevin Jenkins, to me, is up there as one of the best tackles in this class. You can make a case for him over Darisaw. You could make a case for, him being one of the top tackles. If the Lions could trade back to 15 and get Tevin Jenkins, I don't think there's really much of a drop-off. I would argue Tevin Jenkins is more polished right now than Penei Sewell is. Sewell probably has a higher upside, but I would argue that he's more polished right now. Plus, he played right tackle last season. Okay, I love me some Tevin Jenkins. And of course, you always got some other options there. Would I accept that trade? If I was the Lions, yes, I would. I think the value is through the roof. But again, if you really like somebody you don't want to miss out, don't trade back. Then, of course, take the guy that's there. Then you talk about the next trade offer. Now, this one's really weird. This is what the Chicago Bears will be offering. Now, usually this doesn't happen because they're divisional teams. It has happened, but it usually doesn't happen, especially a team in your division trading up to get a quarterback, you allowing them to do that. That doesn't always happen, but let's just go with it because this is what they got. The Lions would get from Chicago the 20th pick, their first, and next year's first-round pick, so they'd have 3 first-round picks next season, and Akeem Hicks. The Bears would get the 7th pick. Now, there's a couple of weird things to this. First off, the Akeem Hicks part is very strange. The Bears trading away Akeem Hicks would kind of surprise me, but I can understand why they threw him in here because Akeem Hicks is on the last year of his deal. But to me, that makes it maybe not as appealing to the Detroit Lions. Now, he would definitely help you this season. There's no question about it. And he would give you a little bit of a maybe gap, at least for this year, where you could say, oh, the defense line's already deep, but now we don't have to worry about it at all in the draft. You could have really stacked the defense line for this year. You'd have him, Michael Brockers, Trey Flowers, Romeo Okwara. That'd be a strong defensive line. Again, the Bears have to be willing to give that up, but in this scenario, they are. The thing with Hicks is he's 31. He's got a $12 million cap hit for next season. It's his last year on his deal. So he's not helping you for the future unless, of course, you resign him. They have $22 million in cap space right now. You've combined that contract with the draft picks. You're looking at a very low cap space for the Detroit Lions. But this is what having money allows you to do is take on player contracts. So they could do it. They could definitely do it. They may have to move some things around, but they could at least take on the contract. So that's why these come available. Now, Akeem Hicks is one of the top defensive linemen in the league. And we're note here, he actually started his career with the New Orleans Saints. Saints. He was drafted by the Saints. He's one of the better run stoppers. He's mainly known for run stopper, but he gets a lot of pass rush too. He's had years of 8 sacks, and he's 6'4", 325, to play inside, outside. So your defensive line would definitely get a huge boost. And then you're talking about a 20th pick, which obviously you're not getting more picks this year. I could definitely say, yeah, I'd probably just rather take more picks, but I mean, okay, whatever, that's the scenario. And then you get next year's first round pick. Now that's great, 3 first round picks, that's awesome. But this year at 20, who's available? Well, for me, who was available? Christian Darrisaw. Now, Christian Darrisaw may or may not be, I don't know, but he was available. Ojulari, Najee Harris, Rashad Bateman, Jamin Davis, Zaven Collins, Samuel Cosme, and Tevin Jenkins. Now, that is using a simulator. We don't know who's going to be there because that's a long way. Well, you notice is who's not in there anymore, the top receivers, because New England at 15, Arizona at 16 could take those 2 away. So if that was who was available for me, my top targets out of that, Jamin Davis, Zaven Collins, no more Micah Parsons, Owusu Koromora was also gone. So you're looking at Jamin Davis, you're looking at Zaven Collins here. I could see both. Jamin Davis, I could see the scheme fit based on how he's athletically built. Is it a reach? I mean, it's only a reach if you don't like him, I guess. And then, of course, Zaven Collins. I think Zaven's the number 2 linebacker, but the scheme fit may not be great here. So he may fit more of a Patriots system, the big linebackers. I think the Patriots will be oohing and ahhing about Zaven, and don't be shocked if they don't trade up to take a guy like Zaven. I'm just saying, they could shock everybody to take Zaven Collins, and it wouldn't surprise me because I think he fits the scheme. It would kind of surprise me at 15, though. But I'm just saying, I think he fit their scheme, and I think Bill Belichick would absolutely love that if he's not going after a quarterback. And then, of course, I would be looking at Tevin Jenkins as one of my top options. Again, I think Tevin Jenkins is one of the best tackles, so I'd be all over that. Moving back to 20 and still getting Tevin Jenkins, I think if you're going to go tackle anyways, you just stole it. Accept that trade. That's an interesting one. Of course, I don't think that trade would be offered. If that was a trade offered, I don't know. I mean, I could see it. I could see accepting that because I think it is good capital.
It's definitely worth noting that if you move back to 20 with Chicago, there's a very good chance that Rashad Bateman is gone. So at that point, receiver may not be a target unless you're looking at Tony or something like that because of Washington football team. However, if you were going to surprise with cornerback, this could be the time. Greg Newsome to me, man-heavy corner could fit. Maybe if a horn or something fell, but Newsome might be the best fit here. I just don't see it.
The Akeem Hicks part is very strange, though, to me. I don't know. It's really strange. But, again, I'm just a big Tevin Jenkins fan, so it allows me to, be fine with doing this kind of stuff. And then, finally, they had a Washington football team trade back scenario. Now, this one, the Akeem Hicks part is very strange, though, to me. I don't know. It's really strange. But, again, I'm just a big Tevin Jenkins fan, so it allows me to, be fine with doing this kind of stuff. And then, finally, they had a Washington football team trade back scenario. Now, this one, very similar because it's only 1 spot difference. This is actually 1 spot up compared to Chicago at number 19. This trade scenario is the Lions get 19 and a 2022 first-round pick, while also Washington getting 7th pick. I think this is the worst value on paper. I mean, if you think about it, like it's worse than the Bears offer because you're not getting Akeem Hicks. Where to use the trade value chart for New England here, you would definitely be getting your money's worth. Now, it's difficult because they don't have future picks in here. Like, how do you value a future pick? But this is why I've been saying, man, I think the Detroit Lions become a popular trade target because they will be willing to take future picks, understanding we are also building for the future. And Brad Holmes told us that straight up. We are drafting players, but also understanding, okay, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, that kind of thing. So I think the Lions are very willing to take future picks, stack up future picks. The other teams may not want to because they're saying, hey, we want to go win right now. Maybe our coach needs to win right now, something like that. Not saying that we aren't trying to win, but my point is we could take future picks, and I think we'd be very willing to accept those. In mind, it makes us an interesting trade-back partner. If you do the value chart, it's difficult because Patriots first is worth 1,050, 440 for the second, and 50 for the 4th round pick. Now, that alone would get you over the 1,500, which is what the Lions' 7th pick is valued at. Then you throw in the 2nd round next year, and of course, you're way over value. I would put it somewhere around like 300 to 400 in that range. I don't know how you value a future pick, but it would be more value than the 1,500 if you go by the value chart. When you look at a team like Chicago, Chicago's value isn't great unless you really like Akeem Hicks. But again, it's only a 1-year deal, which is kind of the weird thing. That 2 picks, 850 is what their 20th pick is worth, and then of course the future first. Now that can really vary. It could vary between 3,000, which would be the number 1 pick, and a potential 600. Even 600 isn't bad. It's really not because you add those two together, it's nearly the value of 1,500. So a first round pick is extremely valuable, at least according to the value chart. The thing is, the Bears made the playoffs last season. The thought is if they're trading up, they're probably trying to make a playoff push again. However, if they didn't, Now you got a really nice pick, and you're looking at 3 first-round picks. The Rams, we'll see how good they are, but they're expected to be good as well. Your pick, I don't know how good we're going to be. I hope we're better than people think. Regardless, though, 3 first-round picks are legit. And Washington football team has the worst value because they aren't giving you a player. They're giving you their 19th, which is $875, and again, a plus a future first. But I think there's a better shot that Washington's better next season than Chicago. And that's not even biased. I just don't believe. If I had to bet who's going to be better next season, I'd take Washington with a new quarterback. Similar players that would be available. I mean, you'd have Greg Newsome in the corner, Darrisaw, Vera Tucker. Elijah Vera Tucker is an interesting one because he played guard and moved to tackle last season. Now, he went to left tackle, but his versatility is going to make teams interested. He was better at guard, but he could play both spots, so it could give the Lions an option there. He's a very legitimate option. Same guys, Kwity Paye, Jamin Davis, Cosme, Tevin Jenkins, David Collins, those same guys. So to me, my top targets, if I did any of these trade backs, would be guys like Micah Parsons or Owusu Koramoah, assuming, they're both there, but they may not be there. Micah and Jock both could be gone even by the 15th pick, all right? They could, heck, they could be gone by the 15th trade back.
But with that in mind, even if both linebackers are gone, that means one of those top receivers should fall because those teams that take the receivers would be then taking a linebacker. So then Devontae, Waddle, those guys could be available.
Definitely Tevin Jenkins will be extremely high for me. I would also have Jamin Davis probably on there because I think there's a scheme fit. Also, Vera Tucker, I think, is someone to definitely look out for. And Rashad Bateman. But I think, depending on how far you go back, maybe Bateman's gone. Maybe you throw a Kadarius Toney into that. But I think it's at that point, if you're in the first round, you might be really pushing it then with receiver if you're trading back that far.
So in conclusion, the Patriots offer is great. I would take that. I would, however, be a little bit surprised if the Lions went back to 19 or 20 unless they really love a guy like Jamin Davis, like Tevin Jenkins, like I do, something like that. Otherwise, I would be slightly surprised to move that far back. But I wouldn't be mad either.
Yeah, so what do you guys think? Which trade would you accept? I think the Patriots one was by far the best. And if I got that offer from New England, personally, I'm not the GM. I would accept that offer. So we will see what will happen. What do you guys think will happen draft time? What do you guys think the Lions will trade back? That's a comment question today. Comment down below. Will the Lions trade back at 7? Do you think it will happen? Not do you want it to. Do you predict that it will happen? All right, I'm going to leave it here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.